Hello, hello, hello. Once again, you're listening to 89.5 FM KOPN Columbia, Mid-Missouri source for in-depth news, diverse talk, and music of the world. This is more than just your average radio station. This is your community radio station. You can always tune in live on the web at KOPN.org. My name is TK. Right now, I am in the studio with none other than the Kelly Betz. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, no, you needed no extra mic volume at all. Yes.
No.
It's so good to have you in the studio with me today. For those of you who are not familiar with Kelly Betz, but it seems kind of impossible at this point. Like, Kelly is like definitely an OG of the music hip hop scene, hosting events, definitely for as long as I've been here, but probably even longer. Kelly Betz is one of the founders of No Coast Raps. If you're not familiar with No Coast just happens to be one of the leaders for hip hop events and entertainment throughout the Midwest. They specialize in rap battles, concerts, open mics, and they have they have several divisions in the Twin Cities, here in Missouri, in the Chicagoland area. You can find all of their stuff up on YouTube. They've got a Patreon page for the hip hop heads out here who want to donate and contribute and who want to help see a culture and a community like this continue to grow. But they just had their 10-year anniversary last week, I believe. Is that correct?
It's true.
Yes?
Yeah.
How does that feel? Does it make you feel kind of old?
The weird thing about it is, first of all, you said that way better than I could. And when you say it like that, it sounds so professional.
I mean, it's on your website, homie.
Oh, good. Thank God. Somebody else took care of it. I think, like, the weird part about having the decade anniversary is that when I started No Coast, I was washed up already.
Oh,
like, I was 23, 23, and I'd, like, been helping run, like, free spaces and free stores, and, like, I was really into the anarcho-crust grime stuff, like, basically just anarchism in practice. And so I had kind of, like, organized protests and organized punk shows and ran this, like, squat house, and so I'd kind of, like, made my mark in the punk world, and so it was like, all right, I don't know, I mean, we could rap battle or something. And it kind of was only after the first few months of it where I was like, whoa, this is filling the void. Maybe there's something here.
Yeah, for sure. And I like how you put that. That's something that we say a lot here with One Mic, that if you see a void in your community and you have the capacity to fill it, then you should fill it. If there's a void in your community, you fill it.
Oh, we're going to jump right into it here because, like I said, I was organizing protests. Yeah. And that was a big part of my life. And racial politics was at the forefront of my mind. And I just kept going to protests with other white people. Yeah. And I went to a conference where they taught you how to be a better, protest, mover and shaker. And this guy made me feel really awkward because he was like, look at your group. Are there black people? If not, invite them. You have them in your phone, text them. Get their And I was like, you can't say that. Like I had that white shield of like, we can't talk about certain things. We can't do that. We can't be that direct. And so then I felt awkward about that for like a good season or two. And then we started hosting the rap battles and it just got less and less white. And that's kind of what was happening. It was like my friends and I saying, hey, let's hang out. And then being able to bring all this stuff to the forefront and constantly having conversations about race with people who weren't white and bringing everybody together. And it really felt like I was doing so much more than what was happening in those other worlds and in the punk world included.
I was about to say, but it still feels and sounds like an extension of the punk world of anarchism, like what the rap battle culture like is. Like where does it stem from? Can you give, for those of you who are unfamiliar with really just like just the hip hop community and the hip hop world, where like there's so many versions of it, but the rap battle is a very specific niche within it. Can you talk a little bit about the history?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, that punk and hip-hop are very tied together in the history, which is one point there, which is, born of from the same city in the same years, like 74, 75, 76. You got both of them coming out of it, both of them with heavy DIY ethics, which, of course, is just do it yourself, hands-on, taking control, taking control of the means and just doing every part of the activity yourself. And then rap battling in particular, I think, is like punk rock because of just if I break it all the way down, adrenaline.
Yeah.
It's a very similar feeling, and I almost feel like I got burnt out as an adrenaline junkie in mosh pits and in situations where there were fights at punk shows, and it just, as soon as I got comfortable in the punk world and was like, well, whatever happens, I've seen it. You can't shock me anymore. I've pulled enough people off of each other where it doesn't get my heart going the same way it does. That dopamine fix wasn't happening. And it was like, well, maybe I'll hit the street at 3 a.m. and run up to a group of dudes that I've never met and make fun of them. You know, and I remember I had a girlfriend, and she was white, and this was in like 2008, and she was joining me to see what I did on like a Thursday evening. And there used to be these guys that met like on Broadway, like not far from where we are. And they would battle and freestyle and stuff. And I think we went there, and then we went to the College and Paris gas station, both places where there used to regularly be freestyle battling. And I went there. We're like, you know, some of the only white people there, and my style is that I yell in people's faces, and I'm aggressive, and I try to get attention, as do a lot of white guys. And I just remember we ended the night, and I was so proud. I'd like won a few, and I'm like, what did you think, baby? And she goes, I can't believe you've never been punched in the face.
Whoa.
And so like that's that punk rock vibe of like when I when I break it down to like a chemistry, a biological level, I had to get my adrenaline fix, and that's how I found it. And I can intellectualize and tell you all these other things. Bottom line, I wanted to get in fights without fighting people, and that's what that's the community that let me do that.
That's real. No, thank you for sharing that background. You said you're about 23 around that time?
Yeah.
So about so 10 years ago, what year is that? 2009?
Yes.
That got started?
Yep.
Who did you get started with, and where, which spaces, like, in Columbia kind of opened that up? Are you still here in Columbia? Because here it says Chicago.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just say that basically a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, we kind of outgrew Columbia. And it's a very just nerdy inside. You know, it's such a specific scene.
It is.
It's very much like MMA fights, you know. Like
you have thousands and thousands. No. You have totaled almost 2 million views.
That's true.
Yeah.
Really happy about that. And so it's, I think people, when they go see rap battles in Columbia, there are hardcore fans, there are diehard fans, but then it's also like people that want to see it for the spectacle.
Right.
So we usually we've always gotten at least 50 people in the door here in Columbia, but it got to a point where in Chicago and Minneapolis and St. Louis, we get hundreds every time. And so it's like, well, we can sell out in Chicago in a small room, or we can have the front of the stage at Rose filled, and like one feels better than the other. And then just financially, since we're flying people out, there's no airport here. Like last weekend, you know, people had to fly into St. Louis, and then we drove them here. So just logistically, it just stopped making sense. So we only do one event here in Columbia still. The rest are in Chicago, St. Louis, Minneapolis, some other cities.
But shoot, I mean, Midwest stand up, like that's huge. Like you said, that you made that move like 2 or 3 years ago. Like that really does speak again to the void that you're feeling, like, and you just continuing that work. Like, I mean, I can say the same thing for what we're doing here with One Mic, and like just trying to figure out more ways that we can continue to fill and to spread that message and to get people in the room just to listen, and to but like with like the rap battles, it's like you're showing up to listen, but to like be uncomfortable also.
Yeah, it's real.
Which is a lot of fun. Yeah.
I try to warn people. I say, look, it's real. I'm like, they don't know what they're going to say, and they're really saying it.
Yeah.
I do, to go back and answer one of your other questions, though, that I think is interesting, is like who we were and what spaces we were in. We did not have spaces at first. You know, we were in Peace Park for the first one, which is why we held our headlining battle in Peace Park. For anniversary. We were in Peace Park, and we were on campus just because we knew that's where people would come and just be like, what is this? And so that's what happened. And so it took a few events before we got into real venues. And then it was the same venues that punk rock concerts are held. And and that's how it is in every city. Still in Minneapolis, we do like the Triple Rock and like the Coat Room and all these places that usually have punk rock bands play. That's where we're doing rap battles. And so I think that's interesting that we're shaking it up. And as far as who we were, I don't know what I am. I'm either like 4 or 5 different different things or I'm nothing. I'm amalgamous. And so because of that, I am able to connect with a lot of people from different backgrounds and stuff. So it was what I would say a mix between real established rappers knowing YouTube rap battles were a new platform, trying to expand their platform, who were already established, versus theater majors that were trying something because it was weird and it was a challenge. Yeah. And we kind of still are that.
Yeah. I like that around it because I know you said like I don't want to get like all analytical about it, but like I really do want to get into the performance, who these rappers, who these battle poet rappers are, because you really are like, because I can only imagine that there's still like handshakes and there's still like a lot of love even with the two.
Oh, you have no idea. It's such a loving environment.
Yeah, but you have to like be able to tear somebody apart, open them wide open, and also like to talk about yourself too. You know, like there's a lot of theatrics in that, and being okay with it. Like, can you? Because you were doing it yourself. Are you still battling out here yourself?
Yep.
How do you get into character?
Oh, well, I guess I have two different modes. That's a hard question, first of all, and a good question. But I have two different modes, and one is the attention-seeking, over-the-top.
Yeah, you did say that.
It's kind of like an overcompensation, honestly, like just yelling and being absurd, and then some of that's also like the parodying of the tradition.
Yeah.
And so like I got into a battle in St. Louis, and the St. Louis crowd is notoriously rough.
Yeah.
And I'm comfortable there, but they don't know that.
Yeah.
And so I had some stuff where I was like, like the burner, I'm bluffing, guns make me nervous, and everybody loves that because I'm at once following the tradition while breaking it and acknowledging this other thing. And so I'd say that's one mode, is me screaming.
Yeah.
But I'm a nerd that doesn't care.
Yeah.
So that's one side of it. And then the other side of that, I think, is just like, let me be so clever that you're overwhelmed. And that's a lot harder to do because you don't, because your intensity has to be harnessed, and the writing has to be better. Your preparation has to be better. And then there's just a technicality to like how rhyme schemes work, and you get into a lot of what got me into it, which was, like, okay, what if I did an A, B, C, D, E rhyme scheme, and could I carry that for 8 measures?
Right,
and, like this nerd music theory poet stuff. Where that's difficult because you're doing it and you're like, you know what? 30% of the audience is going to get this. Yeah. This is for like the other me's in the room. Yeah. And that's a weird feeling.
So trying to find like a balance between like those two sides, because
I generally come in doing one or the other.
Okay. Yeah. That's real.
And it just depends where I'm at and depends how people are going to react and what the environment is.
Yeah. That is a big part of it. Like back to the performance part of it, because you do have to like be present and in the room and like listening.
To the largest degree. Yeah. I've done country music and punk rock, and I've done stand-up comedy. I've hosted events. I've done a lot of different of the elements of performance, and battle rap is the hardest. It is a contest of social awareness. Who knows the room best? And it's so simple. It's almost so simple. And it's like, what do they want me to say? Yeah. And then somebody else says, you shouldn't be a fan of him saying that. And it's like, just, all right, you versus you. Who wins the room? That's stripped down all it is. Yeah. And that is a challenge that I am willing to take on. Yeah. But it's my heart's racing just describing it because it's so scary.
Well, speaking of, I know you sent me a clip because y'all, like, keep in mind, battle rap isn't necessarily clean ever. But I didn't want to go ahead and share a little bit of something. Who did you send me? Can you tell me a little bit about what I'm about to pull up?
Yeah, this is a rapper from Orlando that just came in to do the rap battles last weekend for 10-year anniversary. And his name's Isaac Knox, and he's actually a professional freestyle rapper at Disney World.
What?
he has a food truck that pulls up with his friends, but then they're not really serving food, they're serving rhymes. They're serving MCs. And so they play all these freestyle games, and he's one of the few professional freestyle rappers in the world.
Yeah.
When I met him 8 years ago, he was living in his car.
Okay.
And he was a struggling young rapper that was convinced he could make this career happen that was not a career that existed.
Yeah.
And he ended up like buying a mansion last year. He's married. He's doing well. I think he's about to move to LA to do entertainment full time. So he's really made a name for himself. Because of him rapping at Disney World, he does not cuss because he has a certain fan base. So I just thought I would take the opportunity to you be able to play this clip.
Yeah.
So I can't say that this is an exact example of what a battle rapper in NoCo sounds like.
Right.
Then again, there is no way. There is no clip that I could show you because it is so many different ways to go around it. Yeah.
And we can talk a little bit more about that in just a few moments.
Cool.
So yes, y'all, stay tuned. We've got, what's his name?
Isaac Knox.
Isaac Knox. Stay tuned.
30 minutes ago, he blew up this venue's bathroom. I'm being honest, and a sweet lady named Lindsay had to unclog it. Yo. Lindsay, is that true?
Yeah.
Talk that shit.
Sorry.
Shake wrote that part.
That was a plan.
So you know what rhymes with that was foul, human? Bowel movement. That toilet is now ruined. But Charlie is from Chicago, if you don't know, but he came here dressed as Darius from Atlanta, and I'll bury him in Como. So which state? Yo. They said you're a better writer. You better defend your liars. He lays so many deep lines but never connects the wires. Each reference has less inspired context than the end requires. Fans catch a couple bars like, oh yeah, I'll bet that the rest were fire. But it was sort of smart to rap with that tortured artist swag. So we assume we're missing depth, and you poured your heart in that. You're the kind of smart that the dumb guys are liking. 3 rounds of woke but weak punchlines they're hyping. Your style's something I've already done twice as striking. Sometimes I'm light, and sometimes I'm lightning. Whether breakdowns, fun rhymes, or guns I'm refining, you're not a good writer. You're just good at one kind of writing. And that's Charles' system like Darwinism. A Neanderthal because he can't evolve from smarts to wisdom. Narcissism preventing humans' evolution. I'm an extra level up. What's a human to a mutant? I could ruin you without doing an X-Men scheme. These words extend into your next 10 dreams. Those who sleep on me can keep on, please. I'm flipping the mattress. Ribbon with mad flips like it's rhythm gymnastics. This flip is a battle pattern that killed you from Mad Flex. When he said minimal damage and Mudslinger can get it from madness, then you said he ain't the murderous type. Like each word that you write is convincingly savage. It's played out to say what you spit isn't active, but believability and street cred is a trick for the masses. The more conviction you rap with, the more you're really an actress. Woo! What up? You beat real deal. Flex wants to be real deal when he grows up. You're no big fish, you're just a reeled eel that his boat struck. Throat cut. Oh, Chuck, you're so what in battle rap? Whenever somebody says Chuck ill, I laugh at that. You don't have.
I'm just going. I gotta come back on that because I'm in the studio just like woo. Always have permission to like to feel what you feel. Like we say, like in the spoken word community, like you know you snap when you hear something you like, but sometimes it's just like oh at these things.
Well, the funny thing is I remember somebody filming once who'd never been before, didn't have headphones, so she couldn't hear anything. And she said, it just looks like you guys are really angry. Because, like, you do, like, the I smell the fart face. It's like, it's not good. I'm angry at it. Oh, it smells terrible. You do this kind of, like, you know, stanked out. It doesn't look happy all the time. It's funny. It's grind. But that's, I think a good joke is almost like, I should have known. I should have seen it coming. You're kind of kicking yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like a call back to 8 Mile and Eminem trying to like tell everything about himself before you even have the opportunity to. Like, I already see this coming.
Well, that's a whole thing. That's a whole thing.
I really wanted to talk about like culture. And
sure.
race
Oh, sure. Yeah. I guess basically the nerds within battling would call that an angle.
Okay.
And so like addressing something, like what are you going to address? Like how do you come about it? What angles do you use?
And this comes through in your preparation before you even
before you walk in. Yeah. And as you could hear there, a lot of his stuff was written beforehand. Right. And you could almost feel the transition of him talking to people in the room and this thing had just happened, but then it becomes a commentary on something more grand. And the rhymes become so dense it would be impossible for him to be improvising.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to I was watching there was a battle y'all had posted from last year, Chilla Jones and Ness, and which I love Chilla Jones. Like I don't follow battle rap as much as I used to, but Chilla Jones is like when we talk about like just creative as well as funny and real and present. So he was like fantastic, but there was a portion in it where Ness, and I didn't know if it was because like he had written it and he had forgotten it, or maybe he like lost his train of thought. But like same thing like in poetry, like someone's on stage and a poet forgets like their line, like people in the crowd is just like, take your time, poet, like it's okay, you got it. And there was like a lot of that too, like he had to like keep restarting. He was like, oh man, like I keep
what they call that running it back.
But it was a little bit more exaggerated in that one. And what does it feel like when that happens? Like, because I feel like as a performer, like you come out of it, you're trying to like find your timing and your pacing again. But like, do you automatically lose because you lose the audience? Like, what exactly? What are you looking for? What's the crowd looking for?
Hard question. I've never done it. Yeah. I've never choked.
Oh, because he's just,
Yeah, I think some people get really in love with their material.
Yeah.
And the idea of not getting it off exactly how they thought it would go is bothering them. And now that's what's running through their mind. And so they're saying, no, I've performed it this way in the mirror. This is what's going to happen. But I'm not one of those guys. I'm willing to adjust. And if it's not perfect, I can just move on and just say words. And so I've never done that. I don't plan to do that, although I might be cursing it right now.
Right.
Yeah, and as far as what the crowd's expecting, I think that No Coast is always a very friendly vibe. It is like everybody's welcome, like we're just having fun, and so because of that, the crowd is more forgiving. But there are crowds like New York and like this, a lot of the South where they're known for just having zero tolerance. And you have guys like what's his name? Like you have these, bigger names that come in and will get booed. Like Joe Budden was booed.
Okay.
Like you just just straight for like, half an hour.
Dang.
And who's the guy? I feel like he was dating Nicki Minaj. Meek Mill. Meek Mill did a battle. He had done one before, like 5 or 10 years ago or whatever. And so Meek Mill then did a battle, and it was in the South. I want to say it was in Atlanta, and he like gets 2 bars off, and then everybody's like, nope, like you either have it or you don't. He didn't have it, and they were gonna tell him. But then you have somebody like Chilla, who's this like super friendly dude with a clean style, and he slips up, and people are gonna be forgiving. So it just depends on the environment. And different levels of patience in different audiences.
Yeah. So as far as not just with No Coast, but specifically with No Coast, because like y'all really are like bringing together the Midwest, in many ways by doing this, bridging gaps across these different communities of rappers and such. So where we've talked about where it's been and where it came from, but like where do you think No Coast and just like the battle rap culture and community is going? Where is it headed versus like just ciphers and freestyling before like roasting, to where is it on its way to?
Sure. Well, I think the lines were only recently defined.
Okay.
And so I feel we're at a period of leveling off from just an explosive growth.
Yeah.
So, essentially there weren't openly written a cappella battles for the internet until like 2008.
Okay.
And before that, like from like 2005, 2006, there were like some DVDs. And so this is still, at most, this is a 15-year-old platform. Yeah. This is a 15-year-old medium. So a few years ago, it was like, oh, it's going to just wait. We're going to get a TV show and it'll be everywhere. And like everyone's going to be bad. Because it felt that way. Yeah. Because we were one of the first 5 leagues in the world. Yeah. So we went, thank you.
Say that again.
So yeah, there were no leagues. Then there was this thing called the league. Then there was us. And then now there are 2 or 3 leagues in every city. Yeah. Like if you go anywhere, people are doing this. And if you're anywhere in the world, you don't have to travel that far to find this. Yeah. Somebody's doing it. And so, like I was saying, it felt like it would never plateau, and then it did. Now, we did just have a movie come out called Bodied, directed by Joseph Kahn, who is like an established filmmaker. He did this movie Detention, but it was on, Bodied was on Eminem's YouTube for a premium membership. Okay. And so it got distribution through Eminem and Shady and all that, and got millions of views. And then there was one that just came out in the UK as well, and both of them starring casts of actual battle rappers. Yeah. And it was written with and starring these people who really are involved in the culture, so I feel it was an honest representation. And also Bodied showed a lot of the problems. It was really fun because it was like, it kind of ruins his life and he goes too far, and it's like gets into race. And anyway, we've had movies, we've had TV shows, and it still isn't like, you know, it's not like in every house in America. It never got to where I think a lot of fans thought it should have, but I'm happy it didn't, because it's already too popular. You know, when you have just like normal bros and Chads and Kyles, you know, it's like, that's too far for me. And
that's real.
I just don't have any interest in hearing that voice again. Okay. It's already weird. You got like 2 or 3 like Trump supporter battle rappers, and I'm like, what even is that? Like, how does that even work?
I wish y'all could see my face right now.
I think it's spread far enough. Yeah. I think when you're in like a subculture, this niche within a niche, and then just normal people start doing it, it's time to call it. Yeah. You know, not to sound like the gatekeeper that I am, but yeah, it's as big as I want it to be, which is to say it's huge. I mean, 10 years ago, some of the people that got involved with No Coast were just people that I was on campus with, and I happened to say something about rap, and then they said something about battles, and it was like, oh, you watch battles? I can't believe it. Like, you know, we're going to be best friends and go watch DVDs now, literally, because you found somebody that was actually into this as much as you were. Yeah. Now, if I'm just talking casually with somebody, I might just be like, you know, rap battles, right? You know, and then I got like a 50-50 shot that they've seen a few. Right. You know, it's just out there. Right. We've been parodied by like Key and Peele and you know, Wild and Out. I work with teenagers as a drug counselor, and they'll reference Wild and Out and Nick Cannon. It's just totally normal to know who they are. And there's actual battle rappers that's how they got their start on that show, such as like Conceited and a few other guys. Carter Deems, who is from No Coast, is about to debut on the next season. Dope. So it's really exciting. Dope. So so there's that commonality now where we used to feel like aliens. Right.
I mean, like, you know, the battles were definitely weird, but still, like, the essence, the culture of just like talking mess, you know, like with people, with your friends, with people in your community. That's still like the thing that, you know, that we find like on the street corner, just people just like talking mess. Like, just shout out to Ragtag. Last week I went and saw Last Black Man in San Francisco, which was a great film. Really played a lot like a play, but there was like kind of like this like a Greek chorus element of like just like a bunch of homies like on the corner, just like kind of roasting each other and roasting everybody that kind of came by, like to someone who has never seen it, it can be like a really uncomfortable thing. But if you just like surrender yourself, you know, like to the light teasing, sometimes like you get bodied and it's a little bit rougher than what you would like, but definitely is something that I feel is just like is a part of the culture, a part of the hip hop culture, a part of the urban culture of just being able to like communicate, see, and take it. Sure. You know, in a way. Yeah. There was, if you have, did you have something else that you wanted to say? I wanted to.
I do have my hot take on that.
Yeah.
Now this is the weird thing, I think. And I want to be careful with how I say this, but, first and foremost, I was introduced to Black culture through media because I was raised in an all-white area, and I fell in love with it through TV before I was able to really fall in love with it. And so I just was like a 14, 15-year-old watching like Freestyle Fridays and just like that being a huge deal. I didn't have cable growing up. My parents were like hippies. I was raised on this little hippie commune thing. And but my friend let me have a house key. So after school, I would drive home and go to her house before anybody was home to watch Freestyle Fridays and then go home and like do homework and do the normal kid stuff. I remember being like, I got to do it with nobody else there to do it with me, and it being just like me and the TV, so important, world changing. That being said, before that, so I've had a lot of time to analyze like how the heck did I end up so engaged and so much a part of the culture, like as somebody who started as an outsider and didn't get my entry until I was like 18, 19. And I think being raised around rednecks and hicks, they do the same thing that I would call like snapping on each other. And just being a young man in the just rural working and lower class, if you're around all dudes, they're just gonna make fun of you. And that was so normal. And I was like a theater kid and a band nerd, and so I just got it really bad. And then like in middle school, the high schoolers just like ragging on me. And there was this huge turning point of empowerment when I went from being bullied to turning into that clever guy that could snap back and then making it fun. And then realizing that my friends and I kind of did the same thing as a game. And those games just got more and more intricate. And so I've lived this weird life where I'm like a 13, 14-year-old engaging in this behavior that is make up insults, make up rhymes, make up little sayings, do turns of phrases on the fly, back and forth. It's competitive. We're trying to be clever here. And then at the same time being like, rap music, that's not real music, and saying all this racist redneck stuff because that's what I was around and that's what I heard. So it took so long for me to break through, and only in retrospect do I connect those things.
I was just about to say that bridge that starts to bridge together.
Yeah. It just took a long time to realize how I was able to get that practice and why I'm maybe so drawn to it. It's just something that people do. Who knows? Maybe that's men everywhere. That's only my limited experience, right? And it definitely does happen way more in Black communities. Like I definitely don't walk up to like a group of 20 white dudes downtown in Columbia and go, "Oh, they're probably having a lot of fun with words right now." You know what I mean? Like that's not what's happening. So, and it's also just been of huge benefit to me to stay and practice with that in working with teenagers and them not expecting it and me just being able to keep up. And it's a very useful tool to have in your pouch, even though it might be problematic. I don't know. I debate my girlfriend all the time.
Well, unfortunately, we are getting really, really low on time. This really ended up being a fantastic conversation, and I really wish we had more time than the 40 minutes that I gave us. We should have done this a whole hour. But yes, once again, you're listening to 89.5 FM KOPN Columbia. My name is TK, and I'm in the studio today with Kelly Betz, the founder of No Coast Rap Battles, and just rap everything. Like, y'all do so much more than just like rap battles at this point in your life. Congratulations on the 10-year anniversary of the whole movement. Y'all taking over the Midwest. If you're interested in finding more, definitely just swing by YouTube. And I mean that. They have like hundreds of videos, millions of views. Type in No Coast Raps. It's really easy to find. Their website is nocoastraps.com.